Hidden away down long country roads in southwest England is the home of the tank. This was where tanks were studied, repaired and developed in World War I, and where, as they still do today, British Army tank crews were taught to crew. Since 1947, there's been a museum here. It used to be called Bovington Tank Museum, but Bovington was too characterful and distinctive, so they changed it to the Tank Museum.
I got into tanks by making little models of tanks, little Airfix and Matchbox tanks, and I came here, my father brought me and my brother when I was 8 or 9, and on the way out I remember I stopped in the gift shop and I bought this kit. Yes, it's a little bit damaged and it's perhaps not made as expertly as I can do things now, but I still have it and I love it because it's a childhood memory. This is it's an M16 half-track, by the way, with quad AA guns on it. This is what I bought then, and so it's a symbol of my love for armoured vehicles, and this is a great place. In fact, if you come anywhere, frankly, for armoured vehicles, you should come here, because this is the world's most comprehensive collection of armoured fighting vehicles. They got everything from the first tank to the very latest tanks. Well, you can't tell the story of the tank without telling the story of the first tank. This here is Little Willy. The story goes that it was called Little Willy in order to make fun of the Kaiser Wilhelm of Germany. But this was an experimental tank. It never actually went into action, but the British learned a lot of useful lessons by building this and trying it out. The main problem with it was it couldn't cross the very big trenches that had crossed all 400 miles of the Western Front. It didn't have the big lozenge shape that came later, but it did have a track system that worked. They finally worked out a way of putting little grippy flanges on the insides of the tracks that ran on rails so that the tracks didn't fall off, and the whole system was much stronger, and that had been the problem with earlier versions of the tank. So they had a big armoured box with a working Caterpillar track system that could cross mud, but not trenches yet. So it was just a little leap from this to the final development of the first tanks that went into action, the familiar lozenge shape. I give you, ladies and gentlemen, Little Willy. Right, what we have here is an FT-17. This is a very significant tank, and if you think that tanks are cute, or at least potentially cute, then this one is perhaps the cutest of them all, because look at it, it's tiny. This is a very significant tank for a couple of reasons. One, it saw a lot of service for a long time. These were first came out in World War I, but were used right until the end of World War II, amazingly enough. This is also the first tank that, if you like, influenced the general look of what a tank should be, with tracks on the outside either side, with a turret on the top, with a single main gun at the front, and a driver in the hull at the front on his own, and an engine at the back. This is the standard configuration that we're pretty familiar with tanks, and most tanks have got this layout, and, well, this was the first of its kind. It wasn't very powerful, though. Its armour was very thin. It was bulletproof, just about, but if anything substantial fired at this, well, that was the end of this, frankly. And was it fast? No, it went pug, 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 pug along at all going well, 5 miles an hour. So you could, with a good pair of stout walking boots, you could outwalk this thing. And in World War I, it wasn't actually going to break the front, because this couldn't cross a large trench. There is a thing round the back, though, you see this here, which helps it a bit. You can come over here. It's all right. See, that's it, your ambulatory. This is, there's nothing high-tech about it. It is simply a piece of metal, the shape that you can see, and this is to help it cross obstacles. If it tips backwards, it's got something to stop it tipping backwards too far. If it crosses a trench that's reasonably narrow, then this might stop the back end falling backwards too violently into the trench. So this helped a bit to keep it upright. There were a few other little variations. This one's got a machine gun in the turret, but quite often they had a 37mm pop gun. There were hexagonal turrets. This one, as you see, is the cast round turret, but there wasn't a huge amount of variation. It's a very basic, very primitive tank. It had a crew of just 2. There's a driver in the front, as I said, and in the turret, well, standing upright on the floor with his head in the turret, I suppose is more accurate, was everything else, the commander and the loader and the gunner. And it didn't have a proper cupola like you get on more modern tanks, so that if you wanted to have a good look around, you had these tiny little slits. There are some in the front as well, or else you had to get out this hatch and have a look around the old-fashioned way. So the FT-17, it's a very influential tank. It's possibly, I don't know, a cute tank, but it's a bit rubbish.